So, for those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Amanda. I'm the managing director of Stage 32. Proud to have overseen this community for the last 15 years. We have over now 1.5 million members on the platform. And we've been a proud partner, education partner of the Cannes Marché Film now for 11 years. So this year marks, I think, our 5th year partnering with FilmUSA with education. And just a huge shout out to Katie and Toney who run the FilmUSA Pavilion. Guys, give them a round of applause. So today we have a panel, and when we were conceiving what Stage 32 wanted to talk about this year, is that I think the one thing that we are all confused about is that the industry has just massively shifted, right? Like what we were looking at 5 years ago is just so different to what is happening today. So today we're just going to try and figure out what the fuck is going on and how to make a movie, right? So, what we love to do is I obviously have some really great panelists here who they're going to introduce themselves, but we're going to get into some nitty gritty, but then I want to open it up to you guys, because I'm sure everybody there has a ton of questions. So let's make this interactive because we all need to be figuring this out today, because it's been such a massive shift. So thank you for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to my panelist, Tonia, to introduce herself.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for coming. I'm Tonia Sotiropoulou. I'm from Greece, as you can tell by my last name, and I'm an actress and producer.
Hello, I'm Rich Botto. Some of you know me as RB. I'm the CEO of Stage 32. For the purposes of this panel, I am a producer, actor, and screenwriter.
Hi.
No. There you go, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Boyle. I run the packaging sales arm of a law firm called Ramo. And I also produce, so I have a Canada here in 2024. And then I have my actual next movie in post right now. And
And you were Palme d'Or nominated.
yes.
Yeah.
Joyland. Yeah.
No big deal.
Joyland.
Hi, I'm Dan Bekerman. I am a deeply Canadian producer. I've made quite a few movies in the last few years, including Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, that premiered a couple days ago, and done 3 movies so far this year, put things together in all different kinds of ways.
I love it. So glad to have you guys here. And and by the way, Oscar nominated and Palme d'Or nominated. Again, no big deal. Yeah, a hype woman. That's you guys, right? All right. So what I'd like to do today is to take us through the life cycle of a film, and we're going to start with some questions about the script stage, and we'll end all the way into distribution, and then we're going to open it up for you guys. So I wanted to ask you guys. We're seeing a lot of different genres hitting the screen by way of the streamers. A lot of things are getting made. So can you talk to us a little bit about, what are the genres that are hot right now? What are you seeing, able to package a little easier? And, what are streamers looking for? What are networks looking for? Let's talk about the scripts.
There you go.
Yeah.
Put me on the spot here. I'm kind of in a unique situation. Can you still hear me? A unique situation because I run Stage 32, and what I mean by that is we are always connecting people who create the content with the people that can make the content. So it's a two-way pipeline where we're intaking a ton of material, but on the other end of that, we have executives that come to us telling us what they're looking for. So what I can say confidently over the last 6 to 12 months we've seen is a lot of people looking for under 10 million, usually under 5 if they can get there, right? Romantic comedies, contained horror. Comedy is back somehow or another. People are not worried about international as much as they used to be. I would say, I hate to say this because it's going to make people think like, whoa, what? But we've even seen a little tick up in drama. You know what I mean? So That's what I've seen at top, but the whole thing is that it's affordable. It's something that's going to be able to be packaged. You know, when we talk about things like packaging and certain types of genres and everything like that, it's really budget dependent, right? So I mean, it's a much broader conversation than that. But that's kind of what we're seeing right now on the end-to-end market side.
Tiff, you.
Yeah, I mean, I echo a lot of that. I would say that I also think, like, when he says drama, I would say it's probably more prestige drama.
Agreed.
Yeah, and you know, thriller and action can still do well.
I have a different take. So, you know, I had an experience with the movie The Witch that really proved a theory for me, which is I should tell them what they want. I should tell them what the genre is, what the style is, because no one thought they wanted The Witch until they wanted it, and then they really wanted it. And that's been my experience with my most successful films. It's been when I've just had the confidence, this is the thing, I know this story's worth telling, push that boulder up the hill no matter what it takes, and people are for it or against it, doesn't make a huge difference to me. I have to have that conviction. That's how I do it.
Want anything to me?
I think it's about innovation, and no matter what the genre is hot right now, you have to be truthful. And people have brilliant ideas and brilliant stories. And I think when something is so different and so special, and you have the confidence to go for it and say and think that this story needs to be told. And I've seen a lot of people pitching me, you know, in our production company. You buy it in the end. You know, just keep on going for it, believing in what you want to create and your idea, your core. Just being truthful, I think, is yeah, and it creates a different genre every time. You know, that you're not even aware about.
It's interesting, you know, obviously there's the hard genres that you guys have talked about, but obviously the passion wins the day. But I assume that you get a lot of no's, even no matter how much you're passionate about it. So how do you stay motivated? Like if you've written something, or if you have a script that you just love, like how do you stay motivated when all you're doing is getting no's?
Are you asking?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it only takes one, so yes, it can be disheartening when you hear no's, but I also think you take it as like a learning lesson in practice. Like, oh, what didn't they like about this version of what I said, or how do I pitch for this type of person I'm going to, or what word stuck out to them of like, ooh, that's a no-no. And kind of like refining, and you can end up getting like really cut and clear with it, and then hopefully just, again, like to his point, you really just have to push yourself and just kind of know and believe in what you're taking out, and I feel like usually when that happens, you'll slowly start to build. And when you're building, you feel like at least there's some momentum. So it's like finding that one person and then building from there versus being like, I'm going to sell this to Netflix now. That's usually not the case. You've got to figure out how to build it.
Yeah, what I just thought of about no's is earlier in my career, like I remember coming here for the first time and just like getting a lot of no's. And I still get a lot of no's. But I think if there was a point where I realized no's are just the water we swim in, it doesn't mean you stop swimming. And it's really almost meaningless at this point to hear a no, because it's you know, it's worse than baseball batting averages, where if you don't have to bat 1,000. That's not what happens.
Yeah, the first question really is about the script phase, but what we're talking about now is the producing phase, right? I loved what you said about The Witch, and I loved what you said about, like, part of it is really understanding the business and understanding your audience. How do you cut down on no's? You don't carpet bomb the city, right? You have to understand what's happening in the business, where these things might fit, where these homes might be, and that will help you be more focused. And what I see a lot, I mean, just the time, is that people understand the craft, or they understand their project, and they think that their project is a staggering work of genius, but they don't understand that they need a connector that's going to see that as well, and that stands one yes right there. That was him saying with The Witch, like, I knew it was great, I'm going to keep pushing it, I'm going to keep pushing it, but I'm sure you did that in a very targeted way. I'm sure you weren't just running around, you know, going to like 9,000 different production companies with the product, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You weren't going, all right, you weren't going to Hallmark with The Witch.
No.
Yeah,
All right,
exactly.
correct.
Thank you. All right. So that's my point. I think there's a gap sometimes between people get myopic with their own projects and they don't take the time to really learn what's going on in the business, what's happening, where the opportunities are, and who those targets should be.
I'm going to keep moving the panel along just because we had started late, so I want to make sure we have enough time for questions. But one of the things that we're seeing now out of this market especially is just how much production is happening outside of LA. Everything's happening in a lot of different states within the United States, and they're happening all over the world. And so, you know, what challenges are you guys having if you're filming in a different state that you weren't typically used to filming in, like in California? If you're filming in a different country, what are some of the challenges that you have faced? And can you give some advice to everybody here in the room on things that they should look at and look out for if and when they're going to be filming outside of the place that they are originally located? And so I don't know who wants to take it first. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, looking at different tax credit zones, is that kind of what you're gonna? Yeah. So, first of all, I think there's two basic kinds of tax credits from a producer point of view and a financier point of view, which is there are the long-term stable tax credits that have been around and consistently successfully exploited for 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And then there's a lot that pop up and are not as reliable. And that's something you've got to suss out for sure.
How do you suss it out?
That's where the community is really important. You got to ask around. You got to know people. And that, communities like this are really great to just ask and find someone with experience in that place. Like I'm exploring some Eastern European places right now, and I need to educate myself. So I'm going to the networks that I have.
I mean, it's definitely that, and I think on the tax incentive side, one of the big things is like knowing that there's an infrastructure there. So you can get I heard there's an island that's giving a 40% tax incentive, but it'll be this person's first movie in the island. But the problem is they haven't really done this yet. This is their first incentive, so they're kind of a guinea pig. Is the infrastructure there? Will the accounting make sense? They're literally having to hire somebody to assess what to do, and so I think you have to be really careful when you're deciding that. Make sure the infrastructure is there.
I couldn't agree with that more, and that's the great thing right now is the competition has never been greater. I mean, there's so many places you will film now with incredible incentives, but this is one of the reasons that we started Stage 32 certification is exactly what Tiffany was talking about, is that you have these incentives and rebates, but you don't have the boots on the ground and you don't have the infrastructure. So we have film commissions that are hiring us and paying us to train below the line people in support and within the needs of that country or that state or whatever, to be able to bolster that up. So when you go in there, you're not saying, oh, it's 40%, but it's not really 40%, because if I have to bring people in, maybe I'm down to 28, 27, and oh, by the way, Ireland's offering 35, but they have everything. And so what's cheaper really? And where are you really getting a bang for your buck?
And yes, I'm on the other side because we do a lot of servicing and co-productions in Greece. There's a lot of US films that are being shot and have been shot in Greece. So it's very important as a producer to basically ask your community and ask around to see who is the legitimate production company you can go for. And
Well, and as we're talking about, the benefits of incentives helping, fund part of the production, Tonia, you actually have your background as an actor. Can you talk a little bit about how you took that and leveraged that to be working with brands to find some financing and sponsorship for your films?
I'm an actress. I started acting when I was 18 years old. That was like 21 years ago. And you get, so many opportunities, but so many no's at the same time. I was living in London for many years, and I still do have my time. And I just found it throughout the years very, very stressful and also sad that out of, let's say, 15 auditions, you might get one part, especially when you're someone like me, that I work internationally, but I'm very specific. I am Mediterranean, I'm from Greece, I can never pass for like a British person or. So I was thinking of, and also very specific, I've always been very specific, about what I want to do, because I love film more than anything. I love films. I love to work on film. And there's a limitation to that. It used to be a limitation to that in my country, in Greece. So I would get offered like great parts for like soap operas or whatever, things I didn't want to do. And then I thought I should find a way to be able to make money and basically survive and feel good about myself. And because again in Greece it's a small market, so I'm well known, but so I started working with brands and as an ambassador, and then I thought that it would be a great idea when we started developing art house films, with my friends like Vasilis Kekatos, who is a Palme d'Or winner, and he did an amazing short film which cost like 2,000 euros. Honestly, that's a true story. So I started to try to find ways to help my friends and help each other out of how we can add more money to films. And I noticed that there's a gap when it comes to branding, because when you think of branding and films, you think that there's like beer and it needs to be there in your face, and that's not. If you sell it to a client in another way, that would make sense to them. It doesn't have to be that. And also, I think it's a very smart way to advertise brands as a brand, and also support film, and also add something, add a brand to something that lives on forever, which is a film. So I started doing that, and then I got offered, this job, like as a executive producer associate that does sponsorships and private funding. And I started studying brands as well, and also studying how we could place them in either short films or like a big film. And I found a way to do both.
And what's really interesting?
And what's interesting about that is that you've built up your own brand. You put yourself out there, as an actor, but then by way of working with actual brands, then you're getting funding not just for your films, but you're able to promote those brands on your social media, which
Absolutely.
is great. So it's such a unique way of like looking at funding, right now. You guys, I want to switch the question before we turn it to some questions from the audience. What have you seen at the market right now in terms of, what are the buyers picking up? Talk to us a little bit about distribution. Like, are people going straight to streamers? Are you looking at doing deals with theatrical attached? What are you guys seeing in this market?
Tiff.
I don't think
you or
we have
Daniel.
I would say what I'm seeing get picked up is a lot of like things with names that are quality projects, maybe IP based. I met with like one of the big sales agents yesterday, and they were saying that like their big thing is trying to find romance and rom-coms. So this is definitely something that like they're actively trying to sell and are excited about. And then theatrical will still come, but it's not as much as it used to be, but it still exists, right? The traditional model is harder to do, but it still exists of you getting pre-sales and packaging it all up that way. But I think that like the big thing really is streamers aren't buying as much, and so you have to be really thoughtful about how you're curating your projects and how you're building and really think about the end game of who is this for, and also knowing like their mandates and how they're going to continue to shift and trying to be this is why it's great to come to Cannes and other festivals like this, because I also think boots on the ground, you get feedback immediately, you understand what's happening immediately versus hearing about it weeks to months later.
What are you seeing budget-wise?
I mean, it depends on the company, of course, but I would say like I'm personally seeing a lot more 5 to 10 million. But we actually just did legal on one movie that I was like, well, I can't believe this got made, especially with this cast. It was a $55 million movie, and there was a domestic pre-sale, and it did have a number of other pre-sales, but they had to find a good amount of equity. But like it still exists. You just have to do it the right way.
So are you still seeing, we saw there for several years, like a 1 to 3 million, like that was the hot spot. So is there still a market for that, or?
There's definitely still a market for it. You just have to be so thoughtful about how you're going to do it, because getting an actor with sales value in that space can be a little harder. Whereas like 5 to 10, it gives you a bit more money to play with in paying an actor. But again, you have to be super thoughtful to not like make a $7 million movie that looks like 5 or something because you paid an actor too much.
Yeah.
Well, you guys, I want to open it up for questions because, again, I know that we started late, so I just want to make sure. And my phone is being used, so I don't even know what time it is. So someone's got to like plug in. You're good, Katie. So I want to open it up for questions from the audience because this is like an incredible round of panelists that have such great insights. You guys, like they know everything. So don't be shy. This is like, no question is a bad question.
Yeah, they were off.
No, stop it. So no question is a bad question. Do you guys have any questions for the panelists? Sure. How about you, everything? Yep. You right there.
Can I just project?
Yeah, that. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much for being here. I do have a quick question for the independent films, because I think independent films, especially without named actors attached, it's pretty difficult to do a pre-sale. So anything under $3 million budget, what's the most common financial model you've seen so far?
So I'll repeat the question. Awesome question. So he was saying on an independent film, 3 million and below, when there aren't really name cast attached, what is a good financial model for that? Like, what would the financial stack look like?
Equity is always a wild card, and at that level you'll need some equity, you'll need some soft money, and at every level you want to have the maximum percentage of soft money. It's not fundamentally different at that budget level. It is a good point when you don't have cast, like how do you raise the money that despite what I said before, one thing you do have is genre. I just finished doing a movie by the director who did Obsession that sold for $17 million at TIFF. It was the largest sale of the festival. And I just did his next movie, which had cast, but his first one sure didn't have much money. It was in that range you're talking about. And, that's lightning in a bottle. Yes, it's genre, so there is a built-in audience to horror. I can't deny that. But, you have to scratch and claw, and you have to just defy gravity, I'm sorry to say. There is no set template that definitely works, really at any level, but especially at that level. So it's determination. And what I love, what I learned to love about producing, especially at that budget level, was I had to convince people that these ideas, these images that I could just verbalize were worth investing millions of dollars into. I think my company grew because I embraced the fucking absurdity of that.
Well, I mean, I love that. But so I know that to that point, Daniel. Like we're constantly getting the no's on the on the financing. So how do you, this is obviously implied, like it's not guaranteed that your investors are going to make an ROI. It's the $3 million film. It's that passion for the film that they're investing in are crazy harebrained ideas that are going to make it to the screen. How do you position it that like, hey, you guys might lose your money if you invest in this, like you may only just break even. Like, can you guys give some tips of like what we can say to investors when we're asking them for money?
I try to be as honest as possible.
Yeah.
There's a movie that premiered here, and I looked at the investor, and she's like, I think I want to do this. And I was like, then look at it as a donation. I'm like, okay, I'm still doing it. So I think it's also finding investors that are game and kind of understand that. And when they know what they're getting into, you don't have angry investors later. They feel like you are honest with them. I understand that can be difficult when you're trying to make your baby and your passion. So I think the other kind of way is to just say, like, first off, there's all the risks. You should have risks in any of your deals, right, with them. But also, I think it's saying things like, this is the finance plan, here's the goals, here's the low bar, here's the high bar. And it helps them feel like there is a way to win, but you're also being honest about the fact that there's a way to lose as well.
I want to piggyback on what Daniel was saying. I think when you're a producer, I have a saying that I call it the NWAT saying, okay, right? You have a script, okay, and what? You have a script and a director that's on the rise. Okay, that's pretty good. And what? I have a director and a script that's on the rise, and I have some soft money. Oh, okay, and what? Right? The more you can answer and what, the further along you're going to be able to move the needle, right, in making that attractive, okay? There's a lot of people here that I have known for years. It's kind of wild. I'm looking out in the crowd, and I'm proud of a lot of you, because a lot of you I met over a decade ago, and when we would meet, you would be telling me about like the script you had, or you show me a trailer for something you had, and I see a lot of you that did the NWAT thing. You didn't wait for permission, and you went out and tried to raise the money, and you went out and tried to make the connections that got you, like I said, NWAT, that director, NWAT, that first money in. And what? Maybe an actor that was willing to take a little bit less money because they believed in the project, right? But there's a lot of you in this room that have done that, and that's part of being a producer, right? The house is on fire, but it's like you got to go run around and figure out a way to dodge the flames. But you also have to figure out a way to build something in the way that's the most attractive to get you to that next level. And that's another reason why, in my opinion, it's a thing that a lot of producers get wrong, is they just don't stay up with what is going on in the business and who's making what distribution channels are changing, and the dust is in the air, and by the time we get done with this thing, there'll be 5 other distribution channels. I mean, there's all this different shit that's going on, but you got to be aware of it, right? So take it that way, the NWAT strategy. What more do you have? What more do you need to get to where you want to be next rung up the ladder?
And I want to make sure we get some more questions too.
Just one quick thing I wanted to add to that. A subtle thing that might actually be helpful is there is a subtle difference between apologizing when you're asking for money and being honest. And that right in that middle point between those, you don't want to be apologizing. You want to say, "Oh, I'm sorry to be asking you." Like, that's not right. But you do want to be honest, so you can't be bullshitting, because most people will see through it. It's in between those things, so you gotta find your sweet spot.
And I love what you guys talked about, so telling your investors a potential low and a potential high, but the honesty, it's like, it's risk. You may not even get the low. So, all right, let's go for another question.
Yes, so first of all, thank you for sharing all your experiences here. I was wondering, what's one lesson learned that you would have liked to learn a bit earlier in your career? And the other thing, what is a lesson that you're currently figuring out, because we're in an ever-evolving creative industry and it's not really stable. So take us a bit into your learning experiences, please.
Great. So another great question. So the question was that what was, looking back at, when they started out, what is one of the best lessons that they've learned along their journey? And then what lessons are they learning right now? Because we're constantly learning.
I would definitely, thank you for your question. I personally would definitely work on my confidence earlier on and believing in my talents and highlighting them, because sometimes we go where we think we want to, but we don't let our real talents, blossom. And these are our strengths, and that's what makes us move forward. And I'm learning so much right now because I'm fairly new to, being a producer as well, and I'm learning all those aspects. So this was very useful for me. Thank you. I've learned so much. I'm figuring everything out, I guess.
We're always learning.
Don't work with Ellen Barkin. I'm only kidding. She's fantastic. He said with a dripping sarcasm. No, I would say that right now it's just being in a constant state of education, a constant state of curiosity, and a constant state of being aware of what's going on, in my opinion. I think that the one aspect that, or the one thing that's completely in our control is we can control how we learn, what we learn, and how we stay on top of everything. And then I would say the second part that I think is totally underestimated in running a platform for 15 years now, that's a social network and education platform, is how many people underestimate the importance of relationship building and networking. And you have an opportunity to do that 24/7, 365. My favorite thing that people come up to me and they're like, yeah, I'm on stage 32, but I really don't use it. And they make it like it's an insult to me. And I'm like, it's not my loss, it's your loss, right? That means that other people, that's the other 1.5 million people are outworking you. And when you show up at Cannes or Sundance or AFM or whatever, they're going to know a hell of a lot more people than you do. They're going to be they're going to have their meetings, they're going to have their setups, and you're going to sit there and go, I get nothing out of it. So those are the two things I would say is constantly be working on your relationship building, constantly stay in touch with people. You see somebody had a movie in the trades that you met, send them an email and say, congratulations, it's amazing, good on you. Stay in communication with people and stay in a constant state of learning.
That was going to be one of my big things with networking. The two best pieces of advice I ever got when I was young was I was a foreign sales agent, and my mentor said to me, Tiffany, make sure when you meet these buyers, you ask them questions about their home. If there was a tsunami in Japan or whatever it is, you call them and you check in on them. And that was really key. And the other best piece of advice I got is we had a PR guy who said to me, in order to stay in somebody's mind, they need to think of you 8 times a year. And how do you do that, right? It can be seeing them, it can be in the trades, it can be many different ways, but that was something that always stuck with me. I think the thing that I'm currently learning, I've been evolving what I'm doing because I've been transitioning a little bit of packaging to producing more and things like that, is balance. I think choosing the things that are most important instead of just trying to work with everything that comes your way. So being really thoughtful about how you're taking something on and out to the world.
I think everyone said it.
I do want to add to that as well. One of the things that I'm currently learning now is that there's such an evolution on our pitching materials. When we're going out with projects, we're starting to see things like interactive decks, and we're starting to see, different ways to display, financial projections and things like that. And people are getting more creative with those types of materials. And so I think that is something that, as we talked about community, start reaching out to each other, saying what are your materials looking like? Because some of the stuff that is getting to the buyers is so different than what we've seen even on stage 32 for the last 5 years. And so I would say educate yourself on that, because even some of those interactive decks that I found, whoever's got those things out there, they're a step ahead of you. So you don't want to be behind. So you want to make sure that you're really looking at what your pitching materials are going out to the market, because you don't want to look stale if people are starting to innovate. So that's something that I would highly recommend for everybody. Any questions? Any more questions? Sure.
For how the industry is changing, I feel like there's an elephant in the room that we haven't talked about yet. A lot of the producers that I've talked to so far this festival have discussed how it's important to get the budget down in any way possible so that you can make an attractive number for investors. And that conversation always leads to another. I wonder if there is, on your end, pressure to use AI in order to keep budgets down.
Well, this is a film panel, so but I knew we would want to talk about AI. So the question was, there's a lot of pressure to bring budgets down, and also there's a big talk of AI, and AI is infiltrating our space. So let's just have, I think, just an open, general conversation about how do we feel about AI? Are you using it? You know, let's get it all out there. And please, nothing on the record, okay, guys? So let's be honest.
Actually, the movie I just produced, we were a test study for one of the streamers on how to use prefix with AI. So that was super fascinating to learn and see how they're studying it, how they're building it, and I think it's not going anywhere. You have to accept it. You have to figure out how to work with it. All of the big streamers and companies are building it themselves, and so you just need to embrace it in some way. I think we use it to recruit it. There's a lot of people that are using it for how they're doing assembly cuts. There's people using it for scripts. There's even in our legal department, there's actually an approved AI system that can help draft like an associate would by the bar, and so it's coming everywhere. We're using it all the time.
Right. I'm going to get back to you guys, but I want to actually talk. I was with a friend of mine who is also an attorney the other day, and she was just saying that they're definitely using it, but you have to be prompting, and you have to really ultimately you need that legal advice. So you can't.
That's why it's like an associate.
Like an associate, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm only seeing it used for like workshopping type things. Like you mentioned assembly cut. I have a movie in assembly right now that it is quite useful, but it's not saving us money. I don't think it's saving us money. It's not replacing any labor. We're just like, if there's an insert shot we know we need, we'll just do a little AI thing for it, and it will cease to exist when we get the actual thing. It's helpful to be able to see it. It's like a useful creative tool, actually, for workshopping ideas, not for final versions. The exception to that is visual effects. It's happening that quickly in visual effects. Not every company, but most visual effects companies are integrating it quickly, and that is saving them money, and it is causing layoffs. So there's a reality to that.
I'm actually curious. We did an hour-long panel on AI yesterday. That was really great. Is that going to be available for streaming?
It's not.
But yeah, we covered a lot of ground on this. But I'm curious, in your particular case, what kind of budget are you talking about that they're saying to use AI to get it down?
This is up to about $5 million.
Up to about $5 million. So I would say to you, my question to you would be, everybody wants to get budgets down no matter what, right? So if I said to you, if AI didn't exist, would you be able to get that budget down to where they want it? Where do they want it? 3.5, 4, 3? Where are they telling you it should live?
They're basically just saying that any project should be as low as it can be.
Right, which is, of course, everybody wants to, right?
Yeah.
They want to unlock the value. So I would challenge you then to say, does your movie need to be $5 million? And if you can figure out a way not for it to be $5 million within the script or whatever, combining scenes, not having as many locations, whatever it could be, maybe you don't get that question in the future. Maybe people just look at it and go, oh, okay, this is a $3 million movie. Okay, this is where we're living. But I agree with Tiffany. Look, if you stand in front of emerging technology, you think it's steamrolled. It's not going anywhere. The question is how it's going to be handled. And I agree with Dan as well. Like we're seeing it in post-production right now. We're seeing why it's happening. But we're not really seeing it in writing in any sort of meaningful way. I'm sure there are exceptions to that rule, maybe at the ground level and everything like that. But you prompt this thing, I don't care, I'm pretty good at prompting shit, and this thing can't get human emotion or my voice or anything. It's not happening. So think about those things in terms, I would take that, advice, if you will, or if that's what you want to use, and just say, how can I get it down without that? Like, how can I just make it less expensive and more attractive, right?
All right, any other questions? Sure.
On point of AI, how do you all feel about sort of disclosures? What do you want to see from using AI?
Can you speak up just a little bit, sir?
Sorry. Around AI usage, what do you see around disclosures and wanting? What do you want to see in projects that may have used AI in different parts of the development?
Yeah, so the question was, regarding AI, what are your thoughts about disclosures of like if you've used AI?
My personal opinion on disclosures, I think it really depends on how you're using the AI. Obviously, if you're going to try and use something with an actor, you need to get a SAG writer, right? I think if you're using it to add extra blood onto a neck, that's very different. And I don't know that you're going to need to disclose that. That's basically doing VFX, right? So I personally think it's dependent on how you're using it.
I'll just say really quick, I'm really good friends with one of the top First Amendment copyright lawyers in the country. And his way of looking at this right now is, and he loves all this stuff and everything like that, but he looks at it, he goes, we're not even in the first inning. He goes, the pitchers are in the bullpen, they're warming up, the fans coming in and going to buy a beer. And that's the truth. Like, we have not seen the guardrails yet. We have not seen where this is where the disclosures are going to come. But they're going to come. The lawsuits are going to come. It's going to be regional. So maybe something will happen in the UK. People will go, oh, okay, that sounded pretty good. And now we'll adapt that, all over Europe. And now the United States has pressure to say, oh, okay. And it's going to happen. I mean, it happens with all, protection of rights type situations. So I wouldn't be too concerned about it now, but it's coming. There's no question it's coming.
And we had talked about it on our last AI panel too, that obviously it's all fast, it's all new. It has this like the spider web that just keeps growing, and eventually I think we're going to get like a governing body for AI, and that will need to emerge. And so again, but we're still at the infancy of it. But eventually there needs to be some sort of governing body of it.
One of the things that came up with this streamer that we're dealing with was they were like, well, how can you use our AI more? How can we help? And I said, well, the problem is I feel like I need to clear anything that I have AI with, and I don't know how to clear that. And he was saying, well, actually, you can almost do effectively like a copyright report on the AI. So it's like a report you can provide the distributor about how they created that particular AI to make sure it's not infringing on anything. So I found that as like, oh, I had no idea that was, it's to me really interesting.
All right, any more questions?
I was just wondering, you guys talked about genre at the start. Like, is there a specific genre that you're looking to pitch, or like a pattern they're looking for in the pitching process?
So if I understood correctly, they were talking earlier about genre. So are there specific styles of genre that are? Was that the question?
Yeah, because they mentioned that they wanted more rom-com superheroes. So I was just wondering if there's like another genre type of film that.
What genres are you looking for, and what patterns are you seeing emerge?
What genres are? Well, I think we covered that earlier on the panel, but we can touch on it again. What genres are you looking for, and what patterns are you seeing emerge?
I just not going to quite answer the question because I think we did cover it, but sorry to baldly say I'm avoiding your question, but one thing to say about that I feel like often doesn't get said is that remember, it takes 5 years, 4 years, 8 years to do these things. So whatever the answer is right now, that's not where the ball will be when it's done and going out into the market. So it's really important to think about that. And if you have a crystal ball and can tell where it's going to be in the future, that's good. But also, maybe you need to have a lot of different projects so that when the time is right for one of them, you have it ready. I personally have had to have a very large slate. Not because I believe in them all in their own ways. I'm not just throwing stuff against the wall, but I have noticed, this is the right time for this one. This is the right time for that one, as, zeitgeist appetites change.
That actually brings up a good point, because I'm sure there's probably people here who have like multiple projects, right, that are like sitting in a drawer. So there is something to be said about that. Like, the market does shift frequently. We're talking about rom-coms right now, but who knows? Historical might be huge next year. We have no idea, but I think it's always great to keep your products polished. Make sure your scripts are on point. Make sure, like I said, like the pitching materials are on point. Make sure all of that's set, and then once you kind of see that the market continuing to evolve, then bring that script out of the drawer based on what seems to be important at that time. All right, I know we're gonna. Katie, we can go over a little bit. Okay, so we'll do probably just a couple more questions, and I'm going to have them all give some last minute advice. All right, you in the back?
Yes. So I have two questions. One is about the networks, like Netflix or Amazon Prime or Apple TV, right? When you approach them, they need studios to be with you. They don't need an independent producer or independent filmmaker. They prefer to have the studios. Secondly, there is a big market. Most of people here are independent filmmakers, and they produce short films, right? So there are no such market to market your short films except the film festivals. So if anyone can take this, two questions.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the short film question, and then we can go back to the streamer one. So essentially what the question was is that, well, I'm curious, how many people here have short films? Yeah, look, I mean, like, where do we all like dip our toes? It's we do our short films, right? But there really isn't like a life for the short films outside of getting it in front of people. So I'm curious from you guys, like, benefits of short films, how, like, people who do have shorts, how do they use them to take the next step? What do you have some advice around that?
Yeesh. No, they're a great calling card. I mean, they really are. And as you've seen recently on platforms like Amazon and Netflix, you're seeing more and more short films that they're programming, and that's cool. I think that's great. I think it's great to see. You have to look at it from a realistic standpoint when you're doing shorts, right? What is your ambition? Your ambition is to make a great film, of course. Your ambition is to showcase your talent, of course. You're going to go in realizing that there probably aren't going to be many avenues towards making money back, right, to recouping your investment. But the recouping investment is the bet you're making on yourself, right? So that, again, comes back to my whole entire sort of, I won't say rant, the whole thing I went on earlier about, networking 24/7, 365 and building relationships. A lot of people will come here, and it's like speed dating. They'll meet as many people as possible. They'll stay up till 6 a.m. They'll talk to everybody, and then they'll go home and they'll talk to nobody. And that's a problem. And then they'll wait for the next thing, and then they'll go to that. So what I would say is, you have to know what your plan is going in, as far as what is your goal with that film, and where do you want it to go, and where do you want it to live, and how do you want it to be seen. So, part of that might be crowdsourcing an audience, not crowdfunding, crowdsourcing an audience for that film 6 months before you ever sees the light of day. So you have a built-in audience that sits there and upvotes it and likes it depending on where you're putting it and everything like that, and it gains that momentum, and you're able to show other people, hey, not only do I have this short film, again, this is the NY. We all have short films, NY. You got short films with this, it's got 2,000 likes, great, NY. Right? So you have to know that goal. I mean, there really is no other formula that all of a sudden I'm going to make this short film and everybody's going to see me and understand what I do. You have to do the work to get that audience and get it out. It's almost like self-publishing. Same thing in a lot of ways.
And it's also a part of your resume as a director. It's a great starting point, or even later on, I love short films, and I really love producing short films. And also, apart from platforms, let's not forget, and film festivals, of course, that they have the short film section, and the journey and where it can lead you, being accepted and like even winning an award to smaller or like the biggest festivals like Cannes. I advise, and again, I'm from a different market, but I advise filmmakers to pitch to distributors, because sometimes there might be a feature film that is relevant to what you have created as a short film, and then they can, for a limited release, they can screen it, alongside with a feature film. And then one thing leads to another. But that's how you start. I don't think potentially someone is easily starting off as a filmmaker with a feature film. We have to, start creating from somewhere. Sorry, 6 microphones.
All great advice, and with the short films too, to Harvey's point, you can definitely build an audience. He wrote the book on it, crowdsourcing for filmmakers. It's awesome. If you guys have not read it, make sure you write it down because it's such a useful tool. So you can essentially build the crowd of your audience, and then you can put it up on a platform like a YouTube and actually monetize it. It's going to take work though, so it's just up to you. Are you really looking to monetize off your short film, or are you using that as your calling card? You could also take content from your short film, cut it up so it shows what you do as a director, create an Instagram page on it so people can see what are you like visually, and then start getting yourself out there with that. So I think that there's several different ways you can go with short films. Now, guys, before we wrap up here, I would love for you guys to give, obviously how hard this industry is. Even though we're making things, even though things are working for us, give some advice to everybody on how to stay motivated, given how hard the industry is.
Honestly, this will sound a bit loopy, but meditate. Try to change the way you feel about what blocks you and what reality is, which is very hard sometimes. And, just, be able to give yourself the positive thoughts and maybe also illusion that things are working out, but they will, because it's all a cycle. Just be truthful and consistent. That's what I would say. And don't give up. If you have a dream, it's your dream, and you have every right to go for it till the end. Just don't give up. That's what I feel.
We touched on a few already. Absolutely, relationship building. Treat it like a job. It is part of your job. And if you treat it like a job, you actually do it every single day, and it becomes discipline. That's definitely one. 2 is position yourself. Understand where your work lives, where you want to live, and cut out all the other factors. That cuts down on the no's. That cuts down on the amount of no's you're going to get, which is the negativity. And the 3rd thing I would say is to be kind to yourself. This is a hard business, and you are going to get rejected. And you can't take it personally all the time. Not everything's going to be a fit. So, be kind to yourself. Don't let yourself get beaten up. Understand, as Tiffany said earlier, it only takes that one yes. But that yes comes quicker sometimes when you learn how to position yourself. And like I said, you're treating that networking like a job.
I guess kind of on the networking like a job note, I would say that, you may get a no from somebody, but it's about what you do with that no with that person. That person may have said no, but doesn't mean they won't say yes to something else in the future. And so how do you keep that relationship going? How do you build it? How do you make it? I literally had a meeting today with somebody that said, I really just want to work with my friends. And I'm sure everybody here has probably heard that at some point, because that's the fun part too. This is a very tough business, and it's hard to work with people who you don't get along with. So I think making other people actually developing a relationship, making them feel like friends, they'll want to work with you more, and it'll be a better experience.
For me, there's no denying it's a tough business, very unstable business. That's why we're here to talk and go blah blah blah, because it is always changing, and you're right. You do need to track it. You need to pay attention. But it goes up and it goes down, and by the time you figure it out, it might have changed already. And that can be discouraging. And that instability can be, could be a reason why you feel some sense of like you struggle to keep hope. Where I have kept my real solid hope and sense of, confidence is this thing is old storytelling. That's not going away. Maybe short films will be all we do in 10 years. Maybe it'll be only short films. Who knows? But storytelling will not go away. And if you deepen your expertise and your connection to that discipline, that will have value.
you know,
I love all of the advice here, you guys, and it's almost like, this is almost like a therapy session, you know, it really is, right? But it's like therapy for all of us, because we're all like, what the hell, you know, what the hell is this industry? It changes so much, it changes so rapidly, but the coolest part here is like every single person here, like you're part of the Stage 32 community. So at those times that you feel like you're alone, when you get the person telling you that you need, you know, to reduce your budget with AI, and you know, when you're trying to figure out your $3 million film and like how to package it without name talent, like you're not alone. Like you have your community right here. And that's why we have the Stage 32 platform. So when you're sitting at home and you're like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I mean, just log on to Stage 32 and go into the lounge and start talking about it. Because all the people that are here are also in those same lounges and have those same problems. So you have like your own therapy session on Stage 32, 24/7, 365. So, you know, you guys are all doing the right thing by being here and being inquisitive, and obviously, as you see today, like, there are definitely a bunch of different answers, and there is no 100% blueprint, and it's always changing, and it's always evolving. And at the end of the day, you know, you really have to put in that work. You have to educate yourself. You have to be on top of the trades, and you have to be part of the Stage 32 community, because, you know, like RB said, the more you are on top of that all, then the more that you are going to be getting your projects finally done. It might take 5 years, it might take 10 years. Everyone has been working on for 13 years. You know, it's going to take a long time, but the power is in your control, you guys. So I want to thank everybody for being here today, and and I want to make sure that everybody is coming. We have officially taken over the bar, Brown Sugar. So starting today, Stage 32 has taken over Brown Sugar. You'll know it when you see it. So if you're looking for community, if you're looking for friends, that needs to be your home base for the next, until Tuesday. And we're having our official Stage 32 meetup tomorrow night at 6 o'clock at Brown Sugar. So you're gonna meet a ton of people there. And I also want you guys to give a round of applause for FilmUSA and their incredible. And a huge shout out to United Airlines. They are going to be they're going to have a networking cocktail hour, I think, like soon, like right now. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.